So I grew up in Sweden, and after I worked as an engineer for many years, I started a second career, becoming a writer. I took a course in actually an MA in creative writing, and met people from all over the world, and started writing my own stories. Most of them are non-fiction stories about things that happened to me during my life, or that I heard about or learned about. I'm not such a good poet. I'm not a fiction writer. So I write nonfiction, things that I know something about and based on facts. But sometimes you can round out the facts with some stories. So one of the stories I wrote was about my mother growing up. In Sweden, we used to live next to a forest where you could go out and pick blueberries. And of course, I and my brother, we used to do it, but we would eat half of them. We'd come home blue in the face. But at least we picked about half a kilo every time. And my mother used to make something called yatkes, which is blueberry cakes, which actually they ooze out when you eat them. The blueberries ooze out, and I've never been able to recreate that taste, although I've asked my wife to do blueberry cakes, but they never taste the same as those that my mother did when I was 6 or 8, whatever, at that time. And reminds me of my youth. And I try to tell these stories that I write about. One of the trips we took was around when I retired. I took a trip together with my wife around the world for 3 months, just before the corona. And we called it Around the World in 79 Days, so that we would be faster than the famous 80-day trip around the world. And we visited many different countries. And we met many different people from different countries all over the world, in Australia, Vietnam, in Indonesia, in Taiwan, and so on. And we came back just before Corona. And I don't know about you read about in Sweden, but the Corona wasn't treated very well. It was open season for everybody to go out, and you could keep your distance if you want to, but it was only recommendation. There was no fines. So because of that, I think we have about 15,000 dead in Sweden out of Corona. I was born in Sweden and studied engineering. And when I retired from engineering, I started my second profession, which was actually becoming a writer. I took a course in creative writing and became an editor and translator and writer. And I even published a book, and I write short stories, and I edit all kinds of magazines and stories. And I find it much more interesting than being an engineer, because I meet different people, and I also learn new things all the time from these stories that I read and edit and translate and proofread. And it's very, very interesting.